Alicia, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Derek, you here?
I'm here.
I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And need a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Long day.
We need a motion to open up the public budget hearing.
I make a motion to open up the public budget hearing.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We'll now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the budget that you have before you tonight has approximately $2 million cut. We worked through that after our last budget work session with the board. The budget in front of you has us set to have a projected fund balance at the end of FY21 of $980,000. The $2 million in cuts includes to date, we have a 3-day furlough for all administrators built in, roughly 4.6 certificated instructional staff, 1 district office level administration position, 1.5 people personnel services staff, that's 1 school counselor and a half-time school psychologist, our half-time public information officer, a reduction of our SRO and possible elimination there. 1 maintenance position, 1 food service position. We have decided to forego our science adoption. We have cut 16 aides. One of the very first things we did was move to the 4-day school week. That, just so that you guys are aware, that saved us close to about $500,000. We have decreased the supply budgets district-wide. We have implemented pay-to-play. We have that as a total of $300,000. We don't have that plan in place yet, but that is the cost that we're trying to make up. The after-school programs have been eliminated across the board. If we have those next year, it will be paid participation only. And then we are still currently working on our transportation costs. We're looking at both consolidation and elimination of routes, and we have also eliminated the shuttle that we were offering for employees' children. And then there are a couple of things that we've added into that budget since we last talked. We were working on the one-to-one technology initiative for students, and so we have added devices to finish off that adoption. And then also knowing that we're likely going to be reopening under different circumstances this fall, we have factored in the purchase of laptops for our teachers. We did have them using Google Chromebooks all of last spring for remote learning, and that proved to be a challenge.
So the cuts we're not quite there yet, or are we there yet? Well, now that we had to put maybe some busing back in.
So that is with the busing in, but we are still working there to figure out how to get that cost down. We were hoping to cut 2.3 million. Right now we're right at 2 million, which is leaving our fund balance, projected fund balance at the end of next year lower than we would have preferred. We were shooting for a 1.2, which is what we require in policy for that 5%.
Have we had any more information or discussion about any of the additional funds that have been coming specifically for technology due to COVID? I don't know if they were grants or if it was from state or federal government funds that maybe we would be able to tap into to help with like offset the cost of those laptops or anything.
So there's two committees at the state level right now, and I know that they were coming out with some proposed grant options for school districts to help offset the cost of technology. One of them I saw came out the tail end of last week, I believe, and it was not an application process. They looked at what districts were receiving, and they automatically picked several districts, and we were not included in that one. Whether or not there's going to be some future opportunities, I don't know that.
So this is based on obviously not the levy passing and everything else. Is it possible that if we decide to go ahead and rerun the levy and it does pass, will some of these necessities that I feel are real necessities, especially the after-school programs, the aids, not necessarily the pay-to-play, that sort of thing, because other schools are doing the pay-to-play. But with that, would we have the opportunity to bring back the science adoption, bring back the aids, that some of the after-school programs and what have you?
Yes, if the levy passes, our last large meeting here where we met with directors and administrators, we tried to detail out on that list what we would potentially bring back if we were able to pass the levy. The transportation that we were cutting would come back, staffing, the SRO position, the science adoption curriculum that we're holding off on. And I think we said we would take a look at maybe bringing back a portion of pay to play and trying to lower that cost for families.
Okay, thank you.
We have received 3 questions that came in. You know, we had offered to the public they could submit questions. So I'll address those.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Great.
So we received 3 questions from Mr. Rod Wickstrom. He's a Middleton property owner. First one, will there be any carryover from the 2019-20 budget that resulted from the closure of the schools? Well, although the state reduced our funding by 1%, we were able to reduce some of the spending due to transportation and food service of a few items. So we do anticipate carryover into the 2021 year that's reflected in our beginning balance. So, the second question.
But that's included in our budget right now.
It is already included.
Yeah, it's already included. Okay.
Number 2, when will our 2019-20 actual expenses be available? And is there any indication that they will be less than the budget? So yes, the actual expenses will be available at the conclusion of our audit, which is scheduled for mid-August. So our final financials should be available around the end of August that we will publish. And we do anticipate them to be under what was budgeted for the 19-20. That's what we've anticipated to have some carryover. We're already hoping on that case, or we know. And then number 3 addresses where does the $6,950,000 in the all other funds proposed budget 2021 beginning balance come from? It is significantly higher than previous years. This is taken from a summary statement that was published. So this, if you look at the summary budget, all other funds, so the general M&O is our 100 fund only, right? That's our general operating. All other funds encompass all of the 200, 300, 400 funds that include local, state, federal, also facilities improvement and bond. The budget that was approved and presented last year for the 19-20 had a beginning balance of only $81,000. I can't really answer why, but I believe, as I wasn't here, that was probably an unintentional error. It looks like the bond balance and possibly the facilities balances were not included in that total. If you look at the actual under 18-19, the unappropriated balance was 6.9 million, which is very close to what I'm proposing we're starting the year with going into 20. Because if you see the expenses and revenues all, and this is budgeted numbers, so once we get the audit, we'll put actuals, but I do believe it was just missed. Those are very dedicated funds. There's tight restrictions on how that money can be used. All the bond payment were made on time, the revenue coming in for those bonds. So I do believe that was probably a typo or an error. There was a lot happening in the May and June timeframe last year when the budget was adopted. So I think hopefully that answers Mr. Wickstrom's question. And that once we have the audit, that will substantiate those numbers. A budget really is a budget. It's an anticipated estimate, and errors happen. So I think that was so far the only questions that we've had.
Will we typically go back and amend this budget throughout the year, or as things change? I know the levy could change that. Is there other reasons why we would come back and amend this budget?
Yes, obviously if the board chooses to run the supplemental levy again and it passes, we would do an amendment right away. But also we have not completed negotiations, so anything that might change or affect the budget after negotiations, we would amend. But also I think that there's so much unknown with what we're going to face in the fall, both on our attendance as well as how the state is structuring. Hopefully the governor or the legislature will not require additional holdbacks. So I anticipate we should probably consider, obviously if the supplemental levy, we would do it right away. Otherwise, maybe looking at it in the January, February timeframe, see how we're tracking, see how our attendance is. By then, the reopening, everything will be in place and we'll have a better estimate. So I would say this year we would definitely want to do that.
So big unknowns for us would be number of students who are actually physically in a building. That's how we get funded. As the state talked about distance learning and how they would fund that?
Yes. So as part of our reopening plan, we're trying to figure out how to address the students that want to maintain their education with Middleton School District but not be present in our face-to-face settings. So that's part of our reopening plan that we're working on that we'll be bringing to you here in a couple weeks. The state is currently working on BBA for this fall, knowing that things are going to be looking different. And so we're waiting for some additional guidance there.
So is there a chance if we don't hit a certain ADA, then this budget gets crushed again, or?
We tried to be pretty careful on projected enrollment when we wrote this budget. So the principals have been very diligent on looking at their enrollment numbers, making contact with families, trying to really get a good answer on, is your student going to be here in the fall? Can we count on that enrollment? And we have not projected for growth at all. We've projected to be down a little bit because that's what our numbers show, and we're hoping to be pleasantly surprised in the fall. But I don't imagine that we have budgeted too high on projected enrollment.
And then things like cleaning supplies or anything else we have to, are the unknowns of preparing, cleaning? I mean, it's an unknown. So, but our budget, I know we had to cut it for supplies. Is that, do we trade paper for cleaning supplies? Do we?
And yes, I would say we did in a great deal. We asked the buildings each to sacrifice and reduce their consumable supplies. And we really felt it was important for us to increase our maintenance supplies, cleaning, and what we have to do for the student occupied. But even that is unknown. We'll be watching it very closely. With tax collection being in arrears, we will be watching our budget very closely as we still have some receivables on the supplemental levy that we will benefit from at the beginning of this year. But then if our levy doesn't pass, we can't anticipate receiving additional payments in January. We've allowed for that in this budget, but we'll be watching really our budget very closely on a monthly basis to make sure that we can cash flow through the spring and into the summer as those payments come. Because even if we were to pass the levy later in the year and we can't levy it until the 21 year, we wouldn't receive those benefits, for another year. So we're going to be maybe forced to trim other areas in order to meet those demands. Because I think everybody wants to have the kids in the class if possible, but we will be trying to find that balance of what's safe and what we can.
So with taxes in arrears, we just paid in June, we just paid our 2019 personally taxes.
Right. The last
So our budget's we're still gonna get a part of the levy money to start the school year because we're 6 months behind, more
That's
or less.
It's for the 19 levy that we actually are receiving the taxes for this year.
So the full effect of no levy will start to show up January through June, and then we really fall off a cliff at the end of June 2021. So
Right.
this is the first wave of cuts. If we don't run another levy, then there's a second set. We're still getting partial money from our supplemental levy till basically January. So
I'm curious, what else can you cut? I mean,
so we'd be cutting another $1 million.
yeah, I mean, where else?
Well, then we're looking at truly increasing class sizes. We would change the way that we delivered education, I think, if that were the case.
We'd be taking major steps backwards.
Yes.
So but even with this budget, we're down 5 teachers. So that class, if our enrollment's down, classes will be a little bit bigger, but not lots bigger, right? But if our enrollment stays the same, class size will definitely be higher in the fall.
Right.
Well, it's gonna be higher one way or the other because we've cut teachers already. We've cut aides. The 4-day week has helped us a little bit. We're not able to go back and make up hourly wages on anybody. So was that $500,000 we saved?
That was about 350,000.
So we're saving $350,000 on the backs of the people
Pay the least.
we pay the least that are supporting our classrooms. And that's wave 1 of cuts, okay? Anybody else have any more questions?
Thank you guys for all your hard work and
Yes, thank you.
doing what you're doing in long hours and the amount of cuts that you're proposing is significant.
But I really think that the aha moment is this is phase 1, taxes in arrears. There's another $1 million coming, regardless of what the state does in holdbacks. I mean, so
We're really operating off of best case scenario right now in
Okay.
the state.
if there's no further discussion, I'd take a motion to close public budget hearing.
I second it.
We haven't got any comments.
I can't make the
Are
motion.
you ready?
Oh,
for that motion. I make a motion to close the public budget hearing.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. We'll go to section 6, action items. A is the fiscal budget for 2021. We need a motion to approve and adopt the proposed budget.
I make a motion to approve the proposed budget for 2021.
I second it.
Is there any more discussion?
I just guess I want to just encourage and plead and ask at this point, anyone who has other ideas or options or have heard of things working, to not be shy to reach out to the district office and to share those possible solutions for us so that we can try and move forward. I know I don't know everything there is to know about funding and budgets, and definitely would welcome input from the community to help us continue to work through this. And I know that our staff has done a fantastic job, but I think just continue to welcome input and try and work through it together as a community.
Well, I would also say is we start going through these numbers and we look and we see we have furloughs for the administration. But I think what people don't understand is how many hours are actually paid versus unpaid as an administrator. Just going through this for a year now, when we hit bumps in the roads, the work doesn't stop, and the hours and the weekends that pile up on the administrative side, it's not an hourly job, it's a salaried job. And I just know from the emails that I get 7 days a week, at different hours of the day, that your whole team is in no way working 8 to 5. Not even remotely, not even with school being closed, everything that's been thrown there. So that's, I guess, one, it's recognized, and two, if you just add up the hours of the year, it's significant. It's not a couple extra hours here. And I know I'm only looking at 2 of you, but I know that's spread across your whole staff, and that's not lost on us, that how many hours are going into this over and over. So I can improve this budget, but it's recognized that there's a lot of time in this.
Absolutely.
Late at night.
I mean, and not only the administrators, but also the teachers. I mean, the teachers, it's never been an 8 to 5 job. It's a 7-day-a-week job, regardless, whether it's online or whether it's the 4-day school week or whether, it's all your students. And now we're looking at possible increase in class sizes and everything else. And that's, the online stuff is not going to take any of that away. It's going to be just as much work, if not more, because now you're going to have double duty. You got online and you have classroom. I mean, that's fairly significant.
And possible split crews.
Yeah.
One set of kids one day, one set of kids the next day, repeating the same lesson prior, yet again, making sure they're all moving along at the same pace. That's so. Yeah. Any more discussion? All those in favor of adopting the budget, approving and adopting the budget for 2021, say aye.
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 Aye. So that brings us up to our next action item. And that's discussion of if we consider running the levy in August.
Well, I'd like to make the motion that we run the levy in August, especially based on the numbers that we've just been presented and what the detriment, I mean, these are facts. And I think the public needs to know that. And if we can get that out to the public, we were so close the last time that I think, we might have a better shot at it as far as that goes, because people are now really starting to see the effects of what this is really going to do with the science adoptions and no aids and all our transportation being cut, no after-school programs. And that's just the first wave. Just like you said, we're hitting the tip of the iceberg on this. And without this supplemental levy, we are going to go backwards, and we're going to go backwards quickly. So I make a motion that we put the supplemental levy back on the ballot in August.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
So we can have discussion now. I'll start because the last meeting if my vote would have been then, I think I would have been a no vote. As I've jumped into these numbers more and more and understanding, we always know our taxes are in arrears, but having just closed on a property and recalculated that it's 2019, in this budget, to cut another $1 million, it gets serious at that point in time. That's exactly what you said, Derek. Like we're not cost savings, we're going backwards, and we're not serving the patrons of the Milton School District. If they want to vote no and they want to go backwards, then they will have the chance to do that. But given that there's 3 board members right now, I don't know that it's fair to have 3 board members make the decision not to give the district a chance to sell this for the whole summer with actual numbers, because now we don't have to play this game of we're threatening to cut this if we don't have it, which before when we were running, there was, how much is this as a threat? Is it not actual? We now know where we actually are. We are starting to get an idea of what COVID means. We limped through the end of the year, and I say that in the most positive way because we were able to get our Chromebooks out there. We know we have to upgrade teachers with laptops so they can actually teach and work with the kids with the Chromebooks. So knowing that phase 2 of cuts are there and are real, I don't see how we, in good faith, don't give this administration a chance to sell it. I know our parents group, Middleton Yes, got really involved last time, and I think that was important. I think we can continue with that education of the public. I think we have actual numbers. We have our 5-year up there, 10-year budget plan so people understand what our buildings look like and what might be down the road for that. I just don't want to see us go into that deficit where we have to wait a year for funding and we're forced to live a whole year with less.
Well, part of what worries me is, can we come out of it? Would be the problem. You can only cut so much, and then pretty soon you can't come back from it. Everything that our administration, our teachers, our staffs, everything that they've worked for over the last 2 or 3 years, updating for technology, getting the security in our buildings, having the right programs for the kids and stuff like that. We're taking all that away. How do we come back from that and move that forward if we don't have something like the levy? We need that support to be able to just maintain now, because our hands are tied by the state. I mean, it's beyond me why in this environment, the state's wanting us to hold back in the first place. But I'm not a politician and I don't, claim to be, but we should be getting help, not hurt. And at this point, our hands are tied by the state in certain areas with the holdbacks. And so we've got to make every sacrifice we're already making. Even if we have the budget, we're still cutting costs. Even if we have a levy, we are still cutting costs. The levy helps us survive, in my opinion. So we can get through this, whether it's the COVID, the state, whatever it is, for us to still move forward and not take 2 or 3 steps backwards. So then we can rebuild and move forward and still grow.
I agree with those comments 100%. I also have some concerns. I know that we said last time when we ran the levy that would be the last time. We were going to have a budget committee. We're going to throw everything at it to be transparent as possible. I know a lot of people with unknowns with jobs and finances, and that, money is an issue, taxes are an issue. My other concern, I guess, is not so much local as long-term. I mean, are we going to be having this conversation every 2 years? Do we need to look or have a discussion about a permanent levy? Do we need to write our legislatures and our congressmen and say, you guys have to look at school funding? Can we talk to the mayor about impact fees? As a school district, we can't raise funds. We're not in the business of generating money. We get what we get. And the resources we get, unfortunately, unlike a manufacturing company, we don't get the best. You get what you're given, but the end product has to be top notch, and it is. And I think the students coming out of Middleton are extremely well educated and set up to be very successful in trades or academically. I think they have the skills to go on. My concern is that the public said no multiple times, and I fear that just out of spite, because we've asked so many times, that they're just going to say no again. And I guess that's their right to do so. And I'm hopeful that the transparency and the true numbers that we can attach to this budget will help explain some of the reasons why we need this money. But I also hope that we can have discussion about long-term funding as a board and as a district, and even with our local governments, as to this is an ongoing problem, and we need to come up with a better solution than continually having to ask our taxpayers to help. But I also believe that we are blessed with the ability to have local control of our schools and have a say in what that levy money is spent for. So we can use it for things like sports and additional aids and those things that we choose that are important for us and to keep our class sizes small. So I guess I want to recognize that, we've tried this a few different times, but I think with the numbers that are behind it and what's at stake, that we need to give it one more shot and really just ask, is this really what everybody wants? I don't know if you guys know, I'm assuming it's a mail-in election. Are the dates the same? Do we know anything about that process?
Well, currently, Canyon County is prepping to have polling stations open. They did go and tour. They're waiting for confirmation from us whether or not we're going to run, but so they don't know yet whether it's going to be 100% absentee or if it will be a combination of both. But they did go out and identify polling stations. So at this point,
I'm sure they're probably given either or.
yeah. And I'll probably know more when I talk to them tomorrow. Let them know about this if we choose to go ahead.
Well, we pushed back on our administration and our teachers with these cuts. Class sizes are going to get bigger. There's got to be some sunshine in the forecast for people to stay in Middleton. and not lose our administrators and apply for jobs elsewhere. And I think giving it one more chance with this, with where we're at right now. I said last meeting, we're year over year, we're in a better position organizational wise than we were a year ago. We have our numbers. We're going to be able to fine tune these numbers more, share them. I'll commit to having some open meetings at the Sunrise or wherever we can, given how many people we get together and discuss with those numbers. And I think given COVID, given the taxes in arrears, that this is phase one of a two-phase cut that I think it's worth it to get the community's input.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, going back to the very beginning, our levy passing does not increase taxes. Now, the state, okay, when they do their property taxes, okay, that's their right to increase the taxes. But our supplemental levy does not increase our taxpayers' taxes. And many people do not realize that. In fact, it reduces it. What is it, $5 $100?
Right.
Yeah, it's $5 for every $100,000 that actually goes down as far as what it's going to cost, because that money is moving in a different direction. It's going from the bond to the levy. Am I correct? Or portion of it?
We're able to use our bond balance is high enough that we're able to reduce it because the state is still supplementing
Right,
us.
right.
Bond levy equalization, so.
And I've lived in Ada County. I've lived here for almost 30 years now. And I've never seen a levy that actually did not increase your taxes, which this levy has done. And I don't think very many people truly understand the numbers of that their taxes per our levy are going to go down, not up. Now, in the big picture, taxes can go up and stuff like that,
Or
but
your values go up.
your values go up on your real estate. Well, that's out of our control. Okay, that's something that we don't have anything to do, but I think some of the times it's blamed on or perceived that it's when a levy is run or what have you, that it's the district that's increasing taxes and stuff like that. It's not the district. It's the state. It's property taxes based on value and revenue. So when we're offering to put out a levy to move some of this bond money over, and it's actually going to reduce our taxpayers' overall money into it as far as what they're responsible to pay for, that's pretty significant. And I don't think we did a very good job of doing that the first time around. The second time around was based more on what we were going to cut, which I agree with. And now we have those solid numbers. But when we've got these extensive cuts that are coming into play right now. I personally would not like to see the science adoption alleviated. I don't want to see the teachers' aides go away and all the after school programs go away and stuff like that. And we can accomplish this and bring some of those necessary programs back to our district and our students by passing this levy at no cost to our taxpayers. It's that simple.
And we're 10 years, our science program's 10 years old. That's the number?
I don't feel confident answering that.
I think what's the number? I was,
I think it's close.
it's very close, so. Any more discussion? So the motion on the floor is to run the supplemental levy in August of 2020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next action item is C, policy 7,236, financial management, employees paid with federal funds and unexpected extraordinary closures.
So policy 7236 is a new policy language proposed by ISBA. That policy is going to allow us to receive approximately money for stimulus funds. And that begins as of July 1st. So this is a very recent policy. 1300 allows the board to requirement anytime that there's warranted circumstances. So I recommend that you do that. Go ahead and approve this policy this evening so that we can accept that.
So do we have a motion on the floor?
I just have a question real quick. So does the motion need to be to suspend a policy, and is this a first reading, or we can go ahead and just adopt this without reading 3 readings?
Not suspend the policy, but just suspend the 2 reading requirement and adopt the policy.
To suspend the what? I'm sorry.
Sorry, the 2 reading requirement.
Okay, so we are able to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
And you
So does it need to
you
be
can
2
say-
separate motions, or can I do it all in one motion?
You can do it all in one, and if you want to say according to policy 1300, that's the one that gives you the ability to suspend that 2 reading requirement.
Okay, so I make a motion to suspend the 2 reading of a policy according to our policy 1300. So to suspend the 2 reading requirement and adopt policy 7236.
I second it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Our next action item is the Cemetery Road Extension right-of-way, request from the city of Middleton. I think we have numbers now.
Yes, included in your packet was the appraised value of the segment of land that the city of Middleton has requested to purchase to extend Cemetery Road from Highway 44 State Street south. This is the last piece they need to begin construction. And as you see in the packet, it's a little over $8,000. So I think there's no reason or nothing negative impact on the district. It will clean up that ditch bank. They will provide curb gutter and sidewalk along the roadway, as well as pedestrian access into the middle school for kids that are walking from those subdivisions out there to the south. And so I think if we can go ahead and agree to sell that to the city, they can begin construction. If you approve that, you would make a motion to sell, then we would look at the city to drop the documents and get that concluded.
Do we have the actual dollar amount?
Yeah, it's 8,030.
In the packet, 8,300.
Yeah. So I looked at, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and sell the property, that extension right away off Cemetery to the city of Middleton. I looked at the piece of property as well as what the numbers came in at and exactly where that area is and everything else. And I believe, so it's $8,014.78. And it actually will help improvement wise on the canal and stuff like that, as far as that goes on the back of the football field and that whole area back there. And I also would like to add to that, because it has to be specific on what we use it for. It has to be for maintenance, grounds, stuff like that for the middle school. And so earlier in the year, we had the Ninja course built that a lot of the community got into, that number of fundraisers, and a very good portion of that was paid for.
Let's get a motion and then a discussion.
Okay.
So your motion is,
That we go ahead and sell the property to Middleton. the right of way,
8,000.
for the $8,014.78.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so to continue where I was going, there ended up, most of the Ninja course was complete, minus there was a company that was supposed to donate the bark for that. That ended up not happening. So there is a deficit to that organization for how much?
It was about $8,200.
$8,200. That is a deficit that we've kind of carried over. So I would like to make a motion that we use these funds to offset that deficit, and get that all paid for. And it goes within our realm of that $8,000. So they do not have that deficit holding over their heads.
So our motion is to sell it or not. Can we also have the action item of directing funds on that same motion?
You can include it in the motion. I don't think there'd be an issue.
So then you want to amend your
Do-
motion?
Do we need to include it in the motion, or can we just have discussion with that after?
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
guess my question
require,
is, does it need board direction? Does it need to be directed by the board? Or is
You
that
don't need
something that
board
the
action,
principals
but
and the
direction. you
superintendent?
can direct me to use it.
Gotcha.
Or I can add it to, if we have another special meeting, I can add a separate motion to, and if you want to.
Let's just do the motion now and then we'll direct later.
Okay.
Of course.
You want him to amend his motion then to include designating that money specifically for the Ninja course at the middle school?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and add that.
Okay, I want to I'll amend the motion to go ahead and sell to the city of Middleton the right-of-way extension off Cemetery Road. And I want to include that we use those funds to complete the Ninja course at the Middleton Middle School.
Is there a second to the
I'll
amended?
second that.
All right. So we'll first vote on the amendment. So all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any more discussion? Then we go ahead and now vote on the amended motion to sell cemetery property with the funds going to the Ninja course. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Our last action item is to schedule a work session. A quick work session.
So we've been working on the reopening plans in light of the pandemic for this fall. We've started those plans at the district administration level, and we're starting to phase those out to building administration, hoping to have those plans complete here in the next couple weeks, and wanted to get you back for a work session and special board meeting to approve our reopening plan.
What's the date that we have to have them done, or is there a date we have to have them done other than just common sense?
There is not a date. However, part of our reopening plan addresses an online option for kids who are not planning on coming back face to face, and we will need to have them open for registration and start getting a handle on that mid-July at the very latest. So the date I'm proposing is either the 13th or the 14th for that work session and special meeting.
I'm available both those days.
I'm looking.
13, 14.
The 14th would actually be better.
14th works for me better than the 13th, I believe. But either or, I can make.
14th would work better for me.
That's better.
Okay, so
Are we
sounds like majority.
evening meeting?
We can do whatever works best for you guys. Evening is fine.
Well, we
It's
have-
fine.
I think we have negotiations scheduled from 1 to 5 on the 14th as well.
You're right,
Yeah, I do.
Alicia. Yep. And I know I have a meeting that morning, so evening would be better.
Okay.
6 o'clock? Let's do
Sure.
6.
6.
Sure.
So I would entertain a motion that we have a work session and special board meeting to adopt the COVID-19 reopening plan on July 14th at 6 o'clock.
I second it.
So moved. So moved.
So moved.
We have a second?
He didn't make the motion.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I motion we adjourn.
Adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.